This is Jack, and welcome to our review of Fantastic Four 16, The Return of Doctor Doom. We start with the 4 facts. This is the Fantastic Four's first trip to the Microverse. Since then, they've gone many times. Number 2. This is the first team up with another hero for the Fantastic Four that didn't start out with the traditional Marvel misunderstanding / superhero battle. Number 3. This issue features a 2-page letter page called the Fantastic Four Fan Page. Letters are published by Clifford Garber, Martha Beck, Myra Rice, Phil Castora, Bill DeAndro, George Kitchen, Greg Smith, Tom Dietz, and David Singer. The filmmaker Peyton Reed from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, he said that this particular storyline was his first memory about Marvel Comics. It's what led him to use the quantum realm in his Ant-Man movie, Quantum Mania. Let's move on to the plot.
The Human Torch returns to the Baxter Building to find his teammates have been mysteriously shrunk down in size. The surprised teenager narrowly saves them from being sucked into an air vent by melting the vent. Reed, Sue, and Ben suddenly return to their original size. Then a disembodied voice taunts them, proclaiming that this is only the beginning of their coming woes. Comparing notes, the quartet soon realizes that they have all experienced moments where they have suddenly shrunk down in size, in the most dangerous situations possible. After they survive these traps, they return to normal size. Seeking to solve this mystery, Mr. Fantastic decides to call in an expert on size changing. They want to call in the diminutive hero, known as Ant-Man, for help. Some ants overhear him and contact Dr. Pym via his network of ants. Ant-Man leaves his partner, the Wasp, behind to answer the Fantastic Four's summons. He then fires himself in ant form using a Kirby Tech cannon, when all of a sudden, mid-flight, he lands on 2 ants who fly him the rest of the way across town. This speedy mode of transportation gets him to the Baxter Building just as Thing is about to call him on the phone. Hearing of the Fantastic Four's plight, Ant-Man agrees to provide them with a sample of his shrinking formula before departing. During some downtime, Reed tests out a new formula in hopes of curing the Thing. Uncharacteristically, Reed got so excited by the idea, he chose to test it out while Ben was lifting a heavy piano. He poured it down Ben's throat, causing Grimm to revert back to human form. This, of course, caused him to drop the piano. Luckily, no one was hurt by the crash, and Alicia quickly rushed to her now human boyfriend's side. But it's during this time where Ben and Alicia's celebrations are cut short by a voice, warning them to beware of Dr. Doom. After the Human Torch shows off his powers to some local teens through hot dog cooking and fireworks, we see Sue attempting to mask her scent to make herself invisible. Then the Fantastic Four are called together after another anonymous warning. Deciding to finally investigate, Reed gives his teammates a concentrated version of Ant-Man's shrinking formula that causes them to shrink down to a microscopic size. They then soon traverse into a micro-world. To their regret, they appear in a castle surrounded by guards under the command of Dr. Doom. But before the FF can respond, Doom shrinks them down another size. The Devil Doctor gloatingly explains that after his last defeat at their hands, he found himself shrunk to a microscopic world of Subatomica. There in the Microverse, Victor impressed Subatomica's king with his inventive genius, earning his trust, and then using this very trust to construct a new shrink ray. Doom would then turn it on them, using it to shrink the king and his daughter Perla. With Subatomica under his iron thumb, Vin Doom began plotting his revenge against the Fantastic Four. When Doom orders the FF captured, they fight back. Doom captured Sue and used her as a hostage to force the others to surrender. After this, the quartet was incapacitated by knockout gas. Later, our foursome awake to find themselves in a dungeon along with the king and his daughter. Escape appeared to be impossible. when they learn their prison cell is submerged in acid. Perla explains that she and her father were imprisoned after she refused to be Doom's bride. The evil doctor had formed an alliance with her people's dreaded enemies, the lethal lizard men of Talk. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Ant-Man returns to the Baxter Building to investigate why the Fantastic Four failed to return. Suspecting they are in trouble, Ant-Man also shrinks himself down to size until he enters Subatomica. There in the Microverse, he valiantly battled the guards. Sadly, he lost. Being captured, he was brought before Doom. Now Hank is a prisoner. Meanwhile, the FF used their powers to construct a crude submersible from the walls of their prison. Sue figured that it was made of an acid-proof substance. As they propelled the cell to the surface using Johnny's flame power, the wall material protected them from the acid outside. Arriving in the castle, the group restores themselves to normal and fight off the guards. At one point, Thing notices the lizard men's ship. Not wanting him and his friends to be sold to slavers on Talk, broke off a large pole. His sports background came in handy, as he swung that giant pole like a baseball bat. He clobbered the Talkian spaceship, knocking it out of the park. His home run damaged the ship to the point that they had no choice but to turn tail and limp home. Seeing this as a losing battle, Doom used the device to return himself back to normal and escape to Earth. With Doom's coup smashed, the Fantastic Four then used the device to return to their native universe as well. Has Dr. Doom escaped? What traps does the devilish doctor have for the foursome and Ant-Man awaiting them back in our world? Only time and issue 17 will tell.
Welcome to Fantastic Four Favorite Panel Playhouse. When Johnny meets Perla, he's on fire. And you have the king, her father, and you have Johnny flamed on in front of her. He says,
"Don't you worry, princess. We'll still manage to come out of this okay."
Oh, that flame. It's so frightening.
Heck, I wouldn't scare a living doll like you. Flame off! When things look the most hopeless for us, that's when our enemies better run for the hills, chick. As for me, the Human Torch, gonna see to it that nobody hurts one little fingernail on that dainty little hand.
Oh.
And then Thing grabs him saying, "Come on, Squirt, leave the speeches for Tony Curtis. We got work to do."
Oh, let go, you big ox. Haven't you any romance in your soul?
Okay, folks, here we are to discuss Fantastic Four issue 16, The Return of Dr. Doom. Remember from the radio show, that's the only two-part radio episode. This one also ends with a cliffhanger. First we have my boss, Ryan.
Hello.
And then we have my always partner, Shades.
Greetings.
This story has a lot of unique things in it. They meet up with Hank Pym, the Ant-Man.
Dun, dun, dun.
This is the original Ant-Man look. And so my question here is, have either of you read original Ant-Man before?
I read the thing that they made back in the 80s. That was, I think, John Byrne or Bill Mantlo. It was really, really good. It was almost like they were trying to make a series. That was good, but that was pretty much my only experience that I remember with Ant-Man.
So, boss, what is your experience with Ant-Man?
Aside from anything that's like modern, the movies, stuff like that, nothing.
This is a very different Hank Pym than you're used to.
Yeah.
First off, he's not old and not from the streets of San Francisco. Number two, he uses gas instead of the dials.
Yeah, I noticed that instantly.
What did you think of this Ant-Man?
He's interesting. So I'm not sure how the gas works and how he distributes it, but I like to think that he probably puts it in the mask, or at least something that puts it into the mask.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
And like he inhales it somehow. But I mean, his design is cool. No, it caught me off guard as soon as I seen him. He's blue and red.
That was a standard superhero thing because of Superman. That's really why people identified blue and red as this is your hero. Shades, what do you think of the original Ant-Man?
Well, I think it's noteworthy that he is in contact with all the ants throughout the world. And if they mention, this is before there were search engines, if somebody mentions a buzzword like Fantastic Four, we're in trouble, danger, instantly it goes from one little tiny ant to these other ants to another ant. And then it goes, dun, 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 and Hank Pym. So he has this amazing network. He could rule the world just with that alone. It's good. Of course, the original Ant-Man was that astonishing
Tales to Astonish.
Tales to Astonish. And it was just kind of a one-shot, a creepy thing where this guy shrinks down.
That was the original story, but then he did get his own. The Man in the Anthill is the very first Ant-Man story.
In the Anthill. That was pretty awesome. Maybe that was my first experience.
A few issues later, he takes over Tales to Astonish, at least the lead character. He gets some of the craziest Marvel villains of all time. I'm looking at you, Top.
But people must have liked him.
Unfortunately, they were never able to get him a solo series after that died out and Hulk kind of took over the book. But the character is like Hawkman. He stays around.
Okay.
He's here in the Fantastic Four. He's an original Avenger. His movies were fairly popular.
The Wasp was, I guess, always at his side.
The Wasp is by his side throughout his Tales of Astonish stuff.
This was made long ago, decades ago. Here we are, decades later, ripping into it, tearing it apart.
Not me, I love it.
Not you, you love it. Me, I'm more critical. But still, this was made long ago by basically one man. And was this when he was writing several different stories in one day?
But Jack Kirby helped plot this stuff too. It's not just Stan.
Not just Stan.
The thing about the way Stan worked, and this has caused a lot of controversy, and you people know who you are. But the reality is...
Why are you looking at me?
Stan has a very unique writing style here. He allows his artists to take a huge portion of the writing. It's kind of a back and forth is how every one of these issues is done. When artists would get ticked off with him, like Steve Ditko, and they wouldn't want to talk to him, he'd just drop off his work. Stan would then edit it and send it back. So he's still fixing the story the way he wants it to.
Right.
But with Jack, he had a much better relationship until the 70s when a newspaper article kind of spoiled it for everybody. So here, Jack would have had ideas and Stan would have both had ideas. It's why Jack gets the cover credit, where that was not done back then.
The king of comics.
Yeah, because he's very much involved in this too. What did you think of this villain coming back, Ryan? What did you think of this Doom compared to the original?
I think the other Doom was smarter. he messed around a little too much in this one. He didn't do much. I feel like before they're telling them his plan and what happened, he should have actually subdued them, but he just made them tiny and was like, okay, well, this is what's going to happen now.
Exactly. And
so I feel like he wasn't as smart this time around.
I'm sorry, but if you have a time travel device, don't you think you can do a lot more?
Well, I think what you have with Doom right now in this book is showing his arrogance, because every character in here got development. Mm-hmm. Johnny got more kid things, like frying the hot dogs to impress the high schoolers.
Right.
Thing got more development where Reed shoves the formula down his throat, but he's actually okay with being Thing because of Alicia, and he turns around and tells Reed, stop worrying about curing me and try to cure Alicia. And you see Sue attempting to eliminate the problem she had in the Miracle Man issue by eliminating the scent that she leaves. Mm-hmm. All the characters got development. Doom's development, though, was in a negative way, where I think Ryan's right. I think Doom doesn't act as intelligent as he did in the first one.
He's more passionate.
But it's because he just thinks he's won. Mm-hmm. The moment they're shrunk, the slaver group is coming, Doom thinks it's over. His death trap that he puts them in is one of the great Bond-type death traps. You have a little room that any of them could have broken out of, except for possibly Sue, because she doesn't have her force field yet. Ben could have ripped down the walls. Johnny could have set the place on fire, melted out. If they do that, it's submerged in acid. So the acid comes in and murders everybody, including the two people they want to save.
There has got to be an easier way to get rid of your enemies. I mean, there just has to be an easier way.
That is a brilliant containment because it eliminates all of their powers.
I'll take my enemies, I'll shrink them down, I'll put them into this little container in a vat of acid, and if you look out the window, it looks like the ocean. I'll put a robotic fish out there just as sort of a little joke, so they think that they're just in an ocean.
The robotic fish.
And then
is to
watching
get-
them too.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
the-
well, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. It was not elaborate. It was not overdone.
It's the perfect way to eliminate their powers.
It does stop them, I guess. When you have Reed Richards, who's smart, and then... Actually, no, Sue was the one who came up with the plan in the first place. When she realizes, like, hey, we can just rip... Instead of actually breaking through, we could just, make a little thing out of it.
Stan made Sue a functioning part of the team. A lot of people think, well, if the woman's not putting a fist in somebody's face, they're not a functioning part of the team. That's nonsense. Without Sue here, they don't succeed.
They don't free Ant-Man. They don't get out of the trap in the first place. He has the gun and at the end of it.
That's right. She steals the gun.
And she steals the gun out of his hand.
Ant-Man.
Because Thing wants to punch a hole in the wall because Ben is impatient and angry, and all that would do was kill everybody. Johnny wants to set the place on fire, and that again would kill everybody. Reed is so stressed about being fooled by Doctor Doom that he's not his normal self. Where Doom's arrogance has taken him over, Reed's kind of, I guess, say indignation has locked him in.
Locked his intellect.
Until she comes up with this plan, and then he's like, okay, well, you know what? We can build this thing. This is how we do it.